Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Reality Benders episode 5. Today we have an awesome guest. His name is Jack Mccloskey. Now, this guy's actually really cool. We have very interesting stories. We both built successful six-figure businesses and then took a completely different path. And I thought he had a lot of really awesome information about, what he's learned from success and how he's adjusted. So I hope you enjoy the episode. What up, guys? Welcome back to Reality Benders. Today we got an awesome guest. You want to introduce yourself? Tell them a little about your story.
Hello, guys. My name's Jack. I'm from the UK. A little bit about me. I used to work in the city, and then I started an e-commerce business where I quickly brought it to six figures in about 9 months. I experienced a form of financial freedom. And then at the same time, I dived into spirituality and I was reading lots of books. And it was the only way I can describe it is I feel like my heart was pulling me in one direction, where my mind was so focused on the monetary and the money success. And it got to this point where there was so much conflict in me, I had to give into one. And that is why now I've got a coaching business. And basically what I do is I try and make other people feel more fulfilled in themselves, just to live a greater life in every aspect, to put it very plainly. Um,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So tell me about like when you first got started with your e-commerce brand. Like what got you into that world and how were you able to build that up so quickly in such a short time frame?
the honest answer to that is I believe there was a lot of hard work and consistency, everyday grinding, so focused on what I wanted, as well as a bit of luck, for sure. But then I feel like you create your own luck in the sense of how hard you're working and how smart you're working. Why I started it, I went traveling before and I went to Bali and I met quite a few people out there that were very successful digital nomads. So they have successful businesses based on their laptop, and that in itself plants a seed in your head. Like, if these guys can do it, why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
So then once I finished my travels, I was like, I'm going home. I actually worked in Australia a bit in sales, and it was kind of just soul destroying.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know how that
So
goes.
I worked in sales before, actually, in the corporate world. And then in Australia, I worked in sales in for a charity role, very relaxed. But I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I went home, started my e-commerce business just on the basis that I wanted financial freedom. I didn't want to be told what to do. And I've always had the goal for me has always been to make a lot of money to help a lot of people. I honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
feel blessed that I was born in the UK. And I look at it in the sense that I feel like I would be not letting myself down, but I have so much opportunity here. It's like, why wouldn't I try and grab that?
Mm-hmm. And so
So
what
that's
was
why
your
I
actual
started, really.
business? Like what were you selling?
So it started as a general store. So I would find products that I think would do well. The one that I always describe as, like the fidget spinner that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know when that came out in 2014 or something. That would have
Mm-hmm.
been from China. Someone would have scaled that and
Yeah.
made multi-millions. So that's basically what I did. I would find products, um, that I would think would do well. I test them using social media ads, Facebook ads,
You do like
and
drop
then,
shipping?
yeah, drop
Yeah.
shipping. Um, that's the model. And then after that, I found a product. I took it to a niche store. I brought someone in to do my ads because I thought, if I've only been doing this 9 months and someone's been out there doing it for 3 years, I'd rather pay them,
Yeah.
give me more time, and they'll be able to do it better. So then brought to a niche store. The month before I quit, we did 30,000 in revenue. The profit margins were still very low. We were working out a few bits, what was working, what wasn't working,
Mm-hmm.
negotiating the prices with the suppliers and that sort of stuff. But then it was literally like a light bulb moment went off, and I was like, why am I doing this, bro? Like, I'm sat. What I like doing is I like speaking to people like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I like building relationships. I like talking about real shit. I like helping people. And I was doing the exact opposite. I was sat behind my computer looking at data, building relationships with people that don't even speak English, trying to research products, all this sort of stuff. And it just got to a point. I was like, and I had money. Most of my money came in 1 month. And I was like, wow. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
shit then. But like you said earlier, we touched on, once you have it, like, yeah, it's amazing, especially when you've done that hard work for it. But it is that whole what's next? Like, is that a top value of my money making? And it's like, it's not.
Well, that's what's so crazy is, I had a similar experience, Q4 around Christmas and December, that's where everything pops off. And
Mm,
at the peak of my business, I did over, similar, we have really similar numbers too, which is eerie. Like I did like about 32K in sales, which is about 20K in profit. And I had this like existential
very good margin.
crisis. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I did private labeling on Amazon, so I was
Shit.
buying everything up front.
Oh,
But anyways, I
nice.
had this like existential crisis where it was like, huh, I'm literally living what I thought was my dream life, and I feel exactly the same.
Mm.
And to get here, I had to sacrifice relationships, I had zero balance.
Yeah,
And so I was like, if I feel exactly the same, then why the fuck am I doing this?
literally.
But you don't want to give up the money, right? For me, it inevitably ended with it getting taken away from me, which forced me to adapt. But what I really took from that experience is, like, as cliche as it is, like, you can't do it for the money. Anyone that's
Mm.
doing it for the money, you know, you're gonna get it, and your brain's just gonna adapt, and it's gonna become your new normal. And then you have to wake up and do all this shit that you don't want to do, that you
Yeah,
think is worth it because you think when you get the money it's going to fill that void. But then when it
exactly.
doesn't fill that void, you're forced to look at yourself and really, analyze, like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I
Yeah,
putting myself through all this pain? And
literally.
I'm in a position now where I'm basically full-time in music. Like, it's not really making me any money, and I have to delivery drive on the side, and I make, a third, if not a fourth of what I used to make, but I'm 10 times happier.
There's no pain.
No,
I
I'm
don't think
excited. I
people,
wake up and enjoy what I'm doing every day.
amen to that, bro. And I don't think like, unless you have um, ventured into like entrepreneurship and started your own business, it's hard to really understand the pain that does come with it. Like you said, the lack of balance you have because when you're out, all you can think about is, oh, my ads. Oh, but what about if it pops up? Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do this. And then you start having no balance, and it's painful, man. Um, but that being said, I'm still as ambitious and monetary wise. It's just a case of the how I'm gonna get that is completely different, and it's coming from a place of, yes, this is what I love. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna provide value, and then hopefully the rest will fall into place. Rather than like money, money, money. I need money. I need
Mm-hmm.
money. It's like, let's make an impact, and hopefully the rest will fall into place. Like I said.
So when you had that light bulb moment where you're like, oh, this isn't fulfilling me, I need to make a pivot. How did you adjust initially? Like, what was your initial action plan that kind of changed your direction? Like, how did you pivot from there?
Good question. It was actually kind of funny. So looking back on it, it's easy to look back and be like, oh, I was having a lot of conflict. But at the time I was thinking, Jack, this is part of the game. Like, keep going. Like,
Yeah.
the next month's going to be even bigger. And it was, and the trajectory of the business was going up, but it was tough. And then this guy that I've been following for a while, he's my mentor now, Ryan Magic. He had a 8-figure business coaching coaches, and I've been following him for years now, like 4 years. And he actually reached out to me on Instagram, just saying like, I'm not sure what it is about you, bro, but there's something in me that wants to help you. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, that to me is literally like grace of the universe. I was like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, mad. And then we got discussing some financial plans of how can I afford him, because obviously he wants payment for his services.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where it's like, it made sense to me, because I was literally like, bro, I'm in. I'll drop everything right now. Um, I'll I'll get I'll get a loan, go further into debt. I'm like,
Yeah.
this feels right, and it felt so intuitively right, rather than
Mm-hmm.
that whole mental side of like grind, like
Mm-hmm.
chase the money. It was like, nah, this is it. I'm doing this. So that was like, it kind of, the light bulb moment kind of came from from him reaching out, and sort of creating that light
Mm-hmm.
bulb moment for me.
And so did you start working with him after that?
Yeah, we're working together now. He's helping me through it all.
Nice. So what did he like switch with you once you guys started working together? Like, what did he really Like, what value did he provide, and where did that lead you?
He made it very clear to me based on it. He sent me this video to watch before we jumped on a call, just to like get a feel for like what he's about.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it very clear to me that you can be ambitious with money, but it doesn't have to be hard. And that to me was like, what? This last year has been well hard. Like, how can it not be hard? And he's like, well, you need to find something that you love doing, essentially. And I was like, well, what the idea of me, the whole idea for me wanting to make a lot of money was so I can then go and like do speeches at schools and like motivate these kids that haven't had necessarily the easiest upbringing, that if they change their mindset and don't go down the line of like selling drugs and stuff, they can have the life that I have. Right. So that was my motivator for making money, but it was fucking hard, bro. And I was like, every day, like you said, 12 hours of like, not only the grind, but also my soul, like questioning, is this really what I want to do? And that in itself, what a waste of energy that is when you're trying to fucking make things work. So he made me really see the insight to the fact that you can make a difference, you can make an impact now, and you can still have the money. And I was like, shit, then let's do that.
Now, how do you find what that thing is that will allow you to make that process easy and enjoy it?
What do you mean? Like, how do you find what you love doing?
Yeah.
I think that's part of everyone's journey, man. I think, you know, it's a question that I see a lot of people ask, not necessarily me, but like the people that I watch, like Kerr and Ray, and everyone's like, you know, how do I find my purpose, man? And I would always suggest to find your purpose, just get to know yourself better, heal the wounds in you that need healing, that you probably don't even have awareness to yet. Like, these are all in your subconscious, you know, the limits that your parents have put on you, the limits that your friends, your teachers, society have put on you, rather than mold you into go get a business degree, which I did, and then go get a good job in the city, which is nothing wrong with that. If that's truly what you want to do, then fucking crack on, lad. But if it's not, and you've got that sense of knowing whether this isn't what you want to do, then rather than asking the questions, what's my purpose? Ask the question, what do you love? How can I fill myself with more love? How can, you know, and as soon as you have that more love within yourself, you might love yourself enough to be like, do you know what? That job actually isn't right for me. And I'd rather take a pay cut and go make this impact because I care about the environment, or go help old people because I care about that. And then from that, the snowball effect, man, the snowball will get bigger, and hopefully based on your experience in the city or whatever it is, that you can then bring the two and two together and have a fulfilled life and the money, because money is part of the world we live in. There should be no guilt about having it.
Yeah. Well, I think to kind of build off of what you're saying, I feel like the mistake a lot of people make is they think that they just got to find this thing and then everything's going to be magic and like perfect.
Exactly.
But it's more of like you find an ember and you got to stoke that ember until it turns into a fire.
Exactly.
And there's going to be days where it's rainy outside and you're going to have to stoke it even harder. But then there's going to be days where it just blossoms until inevitably you have this bonfire going. And I feel like that's the point I've reached now, where it's like I've put in a solid 4 years of every ounce of my soul into what I'm trying to build. And if you look at the results I have from that, like, yeah, I have some results, but I would have expected a lot more than what I have.
Yeah.
Right. But
I feel ya.
At the end of the day, it comes back to like what you consider success. Right. Like, I don't consider, like, obviously I'm going to shoot for, you know, selling out my own shows and going on big tours and opening up for additionally big artists. But at the end of the day, like, I've already won. I got to wake up and I love what I do all day. That's really what success is.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And also building on that further, which I've realized as you were saying, is that what have we both done? We've both had a lot of experiences in trying different things. You know, when I finished uni, I worked in sales, and then I went traveling. Then I went back to sales, but in a different environment. And then I started my own e-commerce brand. And then that's like, 5 years of me trying different shit. And Gary Vee always says that. He says, if you're young and you don't know what your purpose is, go try fucking shit. Like, go try be a surfer instructor, and then go try and fucking be in sales, and then go and try and live with the monks. Like, just do everything. And then that in itself, you'll realize you're building a relationship with yourself because you're growing, you're learning from these experiences. And then you'll find as you go along and try these different experiences that you'll see what you do love and what you don't. And if you're
You
in the
get more
same job,
data.
exactly, bro.
Right? It's like you're trying to make a decision, but if you don't have enough data, you can't make an educated decision. So if you're starting from a place of not knowing what to do, it's because you don't have enough information to make an educated decision. So what do? You go get information. How do you get that information? Like you said, you try shit. Think intuitively, what excites me? What would be fun? And then go do that. Don't worry about someone's opinion of it. Don't worry about like, oh, am I going to be successful with it? Like if it's something that intuitively sounds interesting to you and you don't have anything else going on, go give it a shot. Because even if it doesn't work out, you're going to learn that. And that's part of getting more data to make a better educated decision. And that's really what it's all about. We're constantly evolving and getting more and more data. Even with what you're doing now, in 3 years, you might be like, you know what, this is actually, this was great. It was good for this point in my life. But like, I actually think this thing I want to do might be better because of X, Y, Z. But you couldn't have known that if you didn't do this first.
Exactly. And I'm Ray Dalio, who's a billionaire. He owned Berkshire and Hathaway. I think it was. Don't quote me on that. But his one thing from his book that I got was radical open-mindedness. Yeah. Like, be so open-minded that it's ridiculous. So like for me, I've got the sense that this is what I want to do now and I'm going to give it everything. But like you said, in 3 years, if something comes my way and I'm going to do that, then boy, you better believe that I'm putting this business down because I just want to do what makes me fulfilled and happy.
So after you start working with this guy, where did it evolve from there? Like where did he take you and what is that like, where did it go from there essentially?
Well, I'm still very new to it, right? So at the moment, the website's still being built up. I'm doing a lot of free coaching calls to get the experience and find out my niche. And then he's got a whole course that we do the sales and Facebook ads we're going to use, which I've already touched on, which in itself is a blessing for me. And I see that year of e-commerce in itself is an amazing step for me taking this further. But also he's expensive, right? And I had to go further into debt, and he had to work out a price that he could set me where he didn't feel like I was in debt to him, right? So we've had to agree on a price, and then in 6 months that goes up. So that sets us a boundary already. So I know where I need to be in 6 months to carry on this journey with him. And I don't know, it's just about sort of finding my feet in it. I'm doing a lot of content. I'm putting myself out there a lot on these podcasts. But the nice thing about it, and this is what I was thinking about before I was jumping on, is that, these things are, if you've never jumped on a podcast before, they're scary. But then I'm going a bit off track here, but I'll go with it. It's like, what's scary about it? And it's like, if you're truly authentically yourself, then on the podcast, then nothing can be scary about it because you're grounded in who you are. Yeah. So going massively off topic, basically I'm at the very beginning of my coaching journey, hence why if you go on my profile and stuff, you'll see a lot of content and stuff being created.
Well, I think so one thing that's super interesting is I saw this graduation speech that Steve Jobs gave. And he talked about in life, you don't understand. I'm going to botch what he was saying, but essentially what he was saying is you don't see how every experience you have prepares you for future experiences until you look back. Yeah. He took a calligraphy class in college that led to creating the font types they used on the Apple computers. But he would have never taken that calligraphy class with the intention of it being the way that led to the fonts. Yeah. So coming back to what we were saying about just going out and trying shit, you might try something that has nothing to do with what you end up doing, except it does. You just don't see that when you try it, right? So for example, for me, I started my own e-commerce brand, built it up to 6 figures. It collapsed on me, put me in a shit ton of debt. So what I have to do, I had to put all my music on pause and spend 1.5 years and just go eliminate my debt. How did I do that? I got sales jobs. And at the time, I was still insecure, right? I built a 6-figure brand. I'd open up for, big artists. I performed in front of 6,000 people, and I was still insecure.
Mm.
So as I was doing all this internal work, you know, I had to like, it was like I had an Etch-a-Sketch, right? And I had to like take this picture I was drawing, shake it up and start over. And what happened in the sales job is I got a sales job at a gym where I was selling personal training. And my
Mm.
job was to literally go up and talk to people and take them through a workout and convince them to buy personal training. So through that process, I'm literally talking to every demographic you could think of, from a 15-year-old Indian girl to a 65-year-old white guy to a 23-year-old, hot chick to like a 35-year-old male who's, wants to get married to like everything in between.
Yeah.
And so I got those reps in. And what he taught us
Mm.
there was, we would learn this script. And then once we had this script memorized, we would go deeper, right? Because what my manager was teaching us at the time was, everyone has a root cause for the decisions they make.
Mm.
And instead of going very surface level of what they're telling you, you got to ask questions that can dig deeper than that to find the root cause of why they're making that decision. Right.
Mm.
And that was a
Powerful shit.
skill set I developed, right? I learned how to look at someone who's 65, who just had a stroke, who, makes good money, telling me that they can't afford my personal training, but then
Yeah.
spends $400 a week eating out, and be like, well, what is really going on here? Because this person is telling me they can't afford it, but their life is on the line here. Right.
Mm.
So how do I dig deeper and figure out why they're afraid to spend that money? And you learn like, oh, well, this, woman, doesn't want to lose weight because for her, it's a sense of security, because when she was younger, she got raped, and she feels like if she keeps the weight on, then she's not going to get raped again. And you have to dig into that deep root cause
Mm.
and figure out like, how do I get her to like let go of that and like become healthy again and become a better version of herself. And like, that's a skill set that, I was talking to 10 people a day. So working there for almost a year, I got reps in. I talked to
Yeah.
person after person after person after person. So I developed this ability to communicate. And once I was able to communicate myself effectively, all of that insecurity went away. And I realized
Mm.
that the insecurity wasn't because I wasn't comfortable with myself. It was because I was worried about the perceptions of other people.
Mm.
And part of the reasons I was worried about the perceptions of other people is I felt like I couldn't effectively communicate myself to get a good perception from them. On top of also the fact that once I got success, no one cared.
Mm.
Right. So I realized it's like, all right, no one cares in the first place. So why am I trying to impress them? I should be doing things because I like it. Also, I
Mm.
now have a skill set to where I know I can effectively communicate. So I feel confident in myself now. So all that insecurity started to go away. And now I'm in a
Mm.
place where I'm actually doing what I love. Being a musician, you get a lot of people that shit on your shit. So if you aren't
Yeah, I
secure
can
with
imagine.
yourself, like that's not going to go well. Right. And, I started a
100%.
podcast where it's like, I need to be able to effectively communicate. So this huge, like what looked like a failure, right? Losing a 6-figure business overnight ended up being a blessing. Cause first of all, it taught me financial independence and how to
Yeah.
actually handle your money. It got rid of my insecurities. It showed me how to actually properly communicate, and it
Mm.
helped me evolve and go through a metamorphosis into the person I am today, which is someone who's
Mm.
comfortable with themselves, knows how to communicate effectively, and all those skill sets feed right into the stuff I'm doing now, which I never would
Mm.
have developed unless that business collapsed on me.
Yeah, 1,000%, bro. And it's
You know what
like
I
you were
mean?
saying earlier, um, about being a musician and putting your stuff out there and people shitting on that. Bro,
Mm-hmm.
if you put yourself out there, I don't care if you fucking want to paint pets and sell canvases of
Yeah.
pet painting, people will shit on you. Haters will hate. So what I always say to people is that if you ever want to, like we go back to earlier, finding your purpose or do something with your life, the best way that you can do that, I believe, is build a foundation within yourself to know who you are and love yourself, so that no matter what people say or do, or friends that you have to leave behind, you've got that stability within yourself.
Mm. That's
you know?
everything, dude. Like, it's so true. Cause like for example, like I put out this video and I ran an ad on it. And what was such a mind fuck is I had comments that were like, I love when I, come on, like, I love when I discover genuine talent. And I'm like, oh, awesome. Right. But then I also had comments that are like, you're fucking trash. You need to quit rapping. And I'm just like, man, when I first started this shit, I was doing it for external validation. And if I saw that when I was doing this for external validation, that would have broken my heart. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm at a place
definitely.
now where it's like, dude, I'm doing this for me. I don't give a fuck about your opinion. So you can have your
That's where
opinion,
the power is.
which is, for example, especially in music, subjective, as you can see from the people that do like this, right? Some people like this, some people aren't. It's just music. That's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's like food.
But at the end of the day, anyone going out of their way to tear you down is just reflecting their own pain and their own insecurities onto you.
Amen, brother.
You know what I mean? And
once you have that
realize
awareness, sorry, bro. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say pretty much the same thing you're probably going to say right now is like, once you realize that, you look at it completely differently.
Yes.
So now how I approach that, I literally have like a list of affirmations I do in the morning. And one of them is I respond to hate with love and compassion, and I look for data to improve. So for example, I launched an ad and I put, rate this 1 out of 10.
Okay,
right?
I like it. Bold.
And so I'm incentivizing people to engage with my ad, which creates additional organic exposure.
Nice.
But with that comes people who want to get, because people love to give their opinion, especially people that aren't doing anything. Right.
Definitely, bro.
And so I get people on there going like, oh, this is a 1. You should quit, bro. And so instead of me being like, oh my God, that fucking hurts. Like, oh, he hates me. Oh my God, maybe I should quit. I'm like, I respond. I'm like, hey, thank you so much for the feedback. Why? Right? So now I've become anti-fragile. Anyone that's providing hate, I'm getting feedback from them on what I need to work on, which is going to make the next one better. So now I'm actually excited from hate, because a positive comment is great. Don't get me wrong. But a negative comment is actually more valuable because it's giving me the things I can fix to get better.
Yeah, and I'd be interested. I think that mindset in itself will take you so far. I'm also intrigued to see the people that do put 1 and say you should quit now. It'd be interesting to see their feedback, because I'm not even sure they would have any. They just want to hate.
Well, that's the thing. You know what's funny? Most of them don't reply.
Yeah.
Right? And then what's funny is the ones that do reply end up becoming very nice. And they're like, oh, actually, like I went and listened to it again and it really isn't that bad. Right? They're probably just having a bad day and they're like, fuck, this is trash. Right?
Yeah.
But if you are literally going out of your way to pull someone down and you're saying they're trash and they should quit, you don't understand how the brain works. You don't understand that our brains are adaptable and that we can literally learn skill sets, and our brain literally grows with those skill sets. And when you understand the mechanics of how the body actually works, traits can be developed. So if you're telling someone that they don't have it, well, maybe not right now, but if they keep working, they're going to get it. That's like talking shit on a fat person at the gym for working out. Being like, oh, you shouldn't work out. You're fat. Why are you even working out? What's the point? It's like, how do you want them to get in shape? If you don't like my music, how do you expect me to get better? I can't get better if I'm not putting myself out there.
Yeah. And what's crazy about that as well, if there is any haters listening to this, is that like by causing hate on someone else, you're subconsciously telling yourself that you're never going to put yourself out there. Because you're just going to, by hating on others, you're effectively hating on yourself. Why on earth would you say to people, I hate this music, I hate the videos, and then you're going to go and put out an Instagram quick 16 bars? I don't think so, bro. You'll be sheltered away at home on a fake Instagram account. So
damn, that's so true, because you're literally subconsciously reflecting your own insecurities. So if you're hating on people, you're literally telling yourself people hate on comments. And you believe it because you're doing it.
Exactly, bro.
Right? It's one thing to see other people do it. It's another thing when you do it, you're going to think other people are more likely to do it too, because that's the person you are. That's crazy. That's so true.
And I'll tell you another great bonus for both of us for like putting ourselves out there. If a hater does comment and it does bring up some pain in us, what a beautiful opportunity for us to then go and heal that. And
Yeah.
might not have had that without that hater saying that, because it might have popped up an insecurity that we've had that we haven't had the awareness to yet. And you can see it like, wow, I'm feeling, because any pain that arises within you, if you're aware enough, you can say, okay, I'm hurting. This is a great opportunity for me to heal. And then again, get closer to that, your higher self and the most potential that you do have, and being grounded in who you are.
Well, it's like if I was making fun of you for having purple hair right now, would you be offended?
No.
No, because you don't have purple hair.
Yeah.
So if someone's hating on me, but they're not giving an actual reason why, like, why should I feel bad about that? That's why I ask them. I'm like, why don't you like this? And if they can't give me a reason, what I assume the reason is that my action is threatening their ego. And their defense mechanism, instead of doing the hard work of working on themselves, is to try and pull me down because that makes them feel better about themselves.
Exactly.
When in reality, that is an illusion. Right? And at the end of the day,
100%.
I know I'm going to be consistent. At the end of the day, they can say I'm trash and that I should quit, but they can't take away from me the fact that I perform in front of 6,000 people.
Exactly.
So it's like,
and you're
have your
doing
fucking
the work.
opinion. You're sitting there working at Taco Bell with no user profile, and you're obviously in pain, because if you were happy and genuinely fulfilled, you wouldn't be going out of your way to hurt someone. Even if they're trash. You would be giving them constructive feedback that can help them get better.
Yeah, I mean, and if you were truly busy, you probably wouldn't even have time to comment. But even if so, like if there is haters that people that listen to your podcast that do that, then I honestly, hand on my heart, I feel sorry for you, because you must be in some sort of pain. And if you want a coaching call with me, hit me up, bro, because I'm up for helping you out, because that pain is just negative energy that not only the world doesn't need, but you're suffering, man. And I hate to see that in anyone.
Oh, it's so true. So one thing you've done that's on my bucket list that I want to dive into is you went and you stayed with monks in Thailand. Tell me about that experience. Like what got you to do that, and like what happened there? Like what was that experience like?
Bro, it was mad. It was mad. What got me to that? I don't know. Like I like spirituality, and I know that I believe that something's guiding me, in a sense that a higher self, I like to call it. You can call it the spirit, the soul. And when I was traveling, like I was boozing, I was like doing my like just partying. That's who I was back then. And when I look back on it, I love those days, but I wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
And then something in my heart was like, I'm being pulled towards going to live with these monks. I have no idea why. And then I met someone, funny enough, that wanted to do the same. And I was waiting for someone to like do it with me, because a part of me was scared to do it by myself. I didn't know where it was. And then we went, bro. And it was like, and bear in mind, I meditate now every day, but I never meditated before. And,
oh, really?
Never, bro. Never. Yeah. And I could turn up, and they take my clothes, and they're like, all right, we're waking up at 4 a.m. You meditate 4 till 6. We go have breakfast 6 till 7. 7 till 12 you meditate, and 12 till 1's lunch, and then 1 till 10 you meditate, then you're back up at 4. And it's a silent retreat as well, right?
So you're not talking.
Not talking, and you're meditating all day, every day. And it was intense, but it was also so blissful. And that the only story I can tell you about it, which sounds cuckoo when I say it, but it was cuckoo and it was nuts. But after I finished my 5 days there, because sadly I would have loved to have done 14 or something, but I was meeting friends out in Thailand that were flying from the UK, so I had to go see them, and I wanted to. But when I left, I stood at the bus stop, and I'm not joking, this bus must have been about 2 hours late, but I didn't even realize, to be fair, because I was so present in the moment and just like so away from the Western world that it was just a whole different experience. And anyway, you know those little lizards that you see on the walls and like when you go abroad, and they're like these nippy little things that always just sat there on the wall when you're having dinner and you never see them. I saw one, and it was like approaching where my feet were, and it came up on the curb, and I saw it, and I was like, wow, this is getting seriously close. Like super present in the moment. Just come from a 5-day of silent retreat, all day meditating. Like that's probably the most present I've ever been in my surroundings. and then it just climbs up onto my toe. And I'm thinking, this is tripping me out a bit, bro. I'm like, what the fuck? What's this lizard? Is this like a message from somewhere or something? And then I like slowly bend down. I just like start stroking this like scatty lizard. And I'm like, maybe it just gets the sense that I'm just so present in the moment. And when you dive in spirituality, there's a thing called oneness where we're all connected. And I can only put it towards that. And I don't know if it was just beautiful, bro. It was so, especially now, seeing the profound lessons that I do have learned from spirituality, from meditating, sorry. And just the power that you are not your thoughts, you're the observer behind them.
Oh, it's so true.
You know, how many of us do live day to day in our brains? And I was watching this documentary the other day, and they were saying you should treat the brain as the sixth sense. I don't know, have you got six senses? Maybe it was the seventh, but you get what I mean. Use it as a tool. It's not who you are, and it's not it shouldn't be running your life.
Well, creating that separation is everything. Like, that's the key to really controlling your emotions. And I think the problem with most people is they think they are their emotions. So when they don't have control of them, they think they've lost control of themselves, when in reality, they're just experiencing an emotion. Just like like, you don't take it personally when it's raining outside. It's just raining outside. It's the same thing with when you're sad. It's like, when you are able to separate yourself, like, you don't take it personally. You're just like, oh, interesting, I'm experiencing sadness. And you can, then like reverse engineer where that sadness is coming from, and then either make peace with it or like identify why. And a lot of times it's, for a reason externally that you have no control of. Yeah. And what's crazy is, I meditate every single day. I have for years. And I've reached this point where I literally don't experience an emotion if it's something outside of my control. Right? Like, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like, let's say like,
as in like COVID happening. And
yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in, like, I heard that, like, events are neutral. It's your perception of them that makes them a good thing or a bad thing. And when you could train yourself to always look for how is this a good thing, you'll find it. Whereas if 100%. You look for, what most people have though is just from society, we're conditioned to look for the negative. That's just also how our brain works, right? We look for the lion in the bush. Like the lion in the bushes, we're hyper vigilant to that because that's what kept us alive. Yeah. And our brains haven't evolved for our modern society. So we don't have the same challenges and issues that we had, in the past. So now that's replaced with things like a negative comment on social media, right? I could see literally 150 positive comments saying, you're a fucking god. You're the best rapper I've ever heard. And if one of those comments are, you're completely trash, that's the one I'm going to be thinking about because that's how our brains work. But when you meditate and when you can separate yourself from that emotion, I can look at it very objectively and go, all right, what's happening? I'm experiencing a sensation in my body. This is kinetic energy. This kinetic energy feels to me like a negative energy. Well, where is this energy coming from? This energy is coming from a negative comment. Well, where is that negative comment coming from? It's coming from someone else who is also experiencing that negative energy, who feels the need to spread that energy to other people to disperse it from themselves, right? Because they don't know how to 100%. Like control that energy. All emotions are this energy inside of us, and you can direct that in any direction you want, whether that's positive or negative. Yeah. So coming back to like what we were saying earlier, if you can then take these negative energy and be like, how is this a good thing? Well, what I see it being as a good thing is, one, I'm either getting an actual data point of what I can do to improve, or two, if I'm not, I'm getting motivation and fuel source from this because I want to prove that person wrong, even if I don't care about their opinion, because I choose to leverage it. Yeah,
100%. And it's like, yeah, and that's the beauty. This is why I say to people, like, meditation, it needs, especially for younger people, it needs a new outlook on the power that it has, bro. Like, the negative comment will create negative emotion in you because of the way that you process it in your thoughts, right? If you see the negative comment that says you're shit at rapping, and it reminds you of a memory where you went on stage as a young kid and performed something and didn't go as bad, and then this, that's that limiting belief of child trauma in you that we all have. It's very natural. So then that one comment triggers thoughts of you're not good enough. It triggers this horrible depressive anxiety feeling, which leads you to never chasing your dreams, because you don't want to experience that emotion again. But when you have meditation, you realize it, you can catch that thought. So you see a negative comment and then you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Then you're like, wait, that's just the thought. That's not even me. I'm the observer behind it. And that's where the power lies. And you're like, shit, then I'm a free man.
Well, once you understand the concept of feedback loops, it makes this a lot easier, right? Like you can get caught in negative or positive feedback loops. So if you have that negative thought, that can be the catalyst that puts you on a negative feedback loop. What does that look like? Someone hates on you, you feel like shit, so you stop taking action, and then that action makes you feel guilty, which makes you feel like more shit, which makes you take less action, which makes you feel like more shit, which makes you feel like more shit, which makes you feel like more shit. And you just get caught in this negative feedback loop that spirals you into depression and anxiety and having no control. But the same thing can happen with a positive emotion. Like I talked on a couple episodes ago, having success can really explode when you get your first initial success, because it's like a shark tasting blood, right? Like when I sold my first product on Amazon, I knew it was possible, right? And that amplified me to want to take more action, which got me more results, which made me more hyped, which made me take more action, which got me more results, which made me more hyped. And so what happens when we experience this stimuli is we got to be able to break it down and look at it very objectively and be like, which direction is this pointing me in? And then I don't know if you're familiar with, do you know who Tom Bilyeu is?
Impact theory.
Yeah, he talks about the concept of, what is it called? I can't remember what he called it, but basically you have a habit loop trigger, right? So what you do is you put in place how you're going to respond to that stimuli before you've even experienced it.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're angry, your habit loop trigger subconsciously might be to punch a wall, to let out all this kinetic energy. Because what are you doing? You're experiencing all this energy inside of you, and it's really uncomfortable, and you want to let it out so you can feel better. So some people let that out by punching a wall, right? But you got to be able to identify, all right, when I experience this emotion, what is my intuitive reaction to handling it? And you can replace it with a productive one. Like, look at it. Is this a productive or an unproductive way to handle this action? And when you replace it with a productive one, all of a sudden it becomes something that's benefiting you instead of something that's hurting you. So for example, like if there's a girl and she has an eating disorder, when she looks in the mirror and she sees what she perceives as being fat, her habit loop trigger might be to go purge or to cut herself or to binge eat, because like that gives her a dopamine rush that makes her feel better. And that's just going to create a negative feedback loop that will keep her stuck in that pattern forever until something inevitably really bad happens. Whereas if she could look at that and go, all right, well, when I feel like this, I'm going to use it as motivation to go to the gym or to eat healthier. Or whenever I feel like this, I'm going to call one of my friends who will cheer me up and have an awesome conversation with them. All of a sudden, now you're creating that negative stimuli becomes the catalyst for a positive feedback loop. And now you're turning this negative 100%. Experience into a positive one.
And if you can do that on a lot of things that you do, then your life's trajectory can change right there and then. And what I challenge people to do, if they have, let's say, go back to the girl example, even further than that negative feedback loop, is ask yourself why you've even got that negative feedback loop in the first place. Like there's some form of pain energy within you that is causing you to have those beliefs and have those thoughts and have that negative self. And if you can dive deep and get a coach, get a counselor to help you with this, like it's a community. We're humans that always love community. You need help. Sometimes you need guidance. I've had it before. And they help you ask questions that you've never asked yourself before, which then you come up with the answers that you would never have come up with on your own. And
that
then
puts you in the positive projection.
exactly, because then you heal that. And then when you go to eat binge eat, or you look at yourself in the mirror, you recognize it for what it was, which is that limiting belief, that child trauma that you have. And you're like, damn. And then you just start seeing yourself in a completely different way. And then, like you said, that positive feedback starts coming in, and you start having love for yourself. And when you look in the mirror and you think, yeah, I look better today, I might go for a run as well.
Yeah, exactly. So where do you want to take your coaching business? Like what would be if you could snap your fingers and turn it to exactly what you want it to be, what does that look like to you?
Definitely so basically what I have this morning ritual that I do every day, and it talks about your vision and stuff. And every morning I say, I want to create a 7-figure coaching business where the main priority for that is just providing as much value as I can to people, and just help them find the kind of love in themselves that I've experienced, and just to have more fulfillment and realize that they are fucking special. We all are, mate. As a 1 in 400 trillion chance of you being born. Like, if you just look at the stats, bro, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone should experience that unconditional love for themselves and watch that pour out into their lives, whether that's with their job, their relationship. So I want to provide that essentially. And then I want to be a youth speaker as well, go around schools and motivate these kids to just send them like more love and give them some advice, because some of them might not have a positive role model in their lives, you know. And
go ahead. I was just gonna say, what do you think is the biggest thing that's gonna keep you from accomplishing that?
My honest answer is, if I feel, because I believe in God, right? So if I think God wants me to do a different path, that apart from that, I've got complete faith that it will work out.
So I want to dive into that a little. I've grown up in a extremely agnostic family, right? So my dad grew up in a Mormon religion and then stopped doing that when he was about 14. And I don't really know what my mom did. I don't think she really did anything, but they basically told me from a young age, you can figure it out yourself. So I have a very unbiased perspective when it comes to God.
Sure.
What I see though, and what I plan on doing with this podcast, is actually sitting down with people from different religions and figuring out how it's impacted their life. Because I think at the end of the day, if this is something that's truly helping someone bend their ideal reality towards their will and create this awesome existence, I want to know how I can leverage that. So
good on
when
you.
you think of God, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because even when I said God, I felt resistance in myself saying it, because I know a year ago, even I wouldn't believe in God. But when you say the word God, people immediately have this image of like this big Christian gray beard guy in the sky. Yeah. And that's not that. I don't believe in that. I just, from what I've dived in with my meditations and spirituality and the books that I've read, that, you know, these books were all mentioning God. So you take that in, and then you have kind of your own experience with it. And I don't know if I went off track there. Sorry. What was your question?
What does God mean to you, and how does that impact your life?
Bro, it takes a lot of stress out, because rather than you always having to be in control, you kind of surrender to the fact that there's a higher purpose for you. So, you know, if the business isn't going well and you still have faith in it, you can just say, I have faith in it, and there's lessons I'm obviously not hearing or needing to learn. And it's kind of rather than carrying all that pain, you can kind of just like release that and say that the universe is wanting me to win. Or the cosmos, or whatever you want to call it.
So you view it almost as this higher entity that we can't, like, not experience, but that we can't comprehend, but that it has a plan for you, essentially.
Right. I believe it's an energy that we couldn't even discuss what kind. It's a new dimension. So let's put it this way. You take a telescope, you look into the sky, right? It's ever expanding. The universe is expanding. Outside the universe is expanding. It's getting bigger. But then you take a microscope and you look at your skin, and it is space. Our skin right now is 99.99999% space, right? But what we see is, we see skin, we see body, we see 3D. how many other dimensions are there out there that we don't see? And this is where it's more about energy and the feeling, the law of attraction, manifestation. You know, I don't know if you've seen people like Eckhart. Have you heard of Eckhart Tolle?
I've heard of him. I don't know much about him though.
Yeah. So bro, just go after this, go on YouTube and watch him speak, and you'll be like, this dude is from another planet. And it literally is that case. So it's the idea of seeing beyond what logically we can,
that we can comprehend.
that we can comprehend. And it's like, it's not even about like logically, it's like more about a feeling, and you have these experiences, and
it's like having faith that there's something bigger than you at play, and that if you can give faith to that it gets rid of a lot of the very short term, your perspective, a lot of short-term things you're experiencing just from your perspective. You're putting faith into an entity larger than you that has a bigger plan for you, essentially.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier with Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
And him doing that. What was it? A class? What class?
He was like speaking at a graduation, like a commencement speech.
Yeah, and you said he took like a writing class or
like a calligraphy class.
That was it, calligraphy. I wasn't sure of the word. And he took that class, and then it became the logo fonts for Apple. And it's like, I mean, is that by chance? I mean, 1 in 400 trillion chance of you being here, and then the same, all of these things happening, occurring one after another. The fucking odds of that happening are so big. It's incomprehensible to the human brain.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So,
and he believes that he was put on this planet for a higher purpose, and that was that.
And you saw that he made a dent in the universe. Like, even if it's just from the perspective of Earth, like he impacted literally everyone's life.
Yeah,
because
like Elon Musk as well.
Because it's not just what he created with the iPhone, but the trillions of dollars in every industry you could think of that expanded on this tool he used, right? And then that leads to innovation in anywhere you could think, right? That's going to eliminate poverty in countries where, imagine you're working in a country where the dollar value of your country is dog shit. Well, if you have an internet connection, you can start a business, run it in a different country where your money's worth more, and now all of a sudden you can provide for your family. Or like you said, with nomads, you could literally, like, one thing I'd like to do at some point in my life as I get more money is go live in another country like Thailand or something where my US dollar is worth a lot more. And I can, ball out with five, like you could get like what you could rent.
Quid.
Yeah. You could get a penthouse there for like $500.
Literally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy how that all, kind of comes together. So you mentioned, and also, oh, go ahead.
Imagine like the kids that he's inspired as well to then go and create the next Apple. Yeah. And like Elon Musk, like Elon Musk is wanting to take people to Mars to relocate. Like, who the fuck, what kid wakes up with that desire, and that desire, not only just a thought, but to like take action every way, and then do Tesla, and then do the Boring Company, and then do, and like, if you hear him speak on Joe Rogan and shit, bro, like, he 100% believes in a higher power. I think saying the word God is just immediately gets people to switch off and put up a wall and be like, this guy's a loony. He's got long hair. But if you listen to certain people and read certain books, it opens up your mind to this new possibility that there's something greater out there. And that word in all religions has been the term used is God.
Have you done any research into like chakras? Do you know anything about chakras?
Yeah.
I had this really crazy experience. So I've been diving more into that world, and I had what I would consider like my first experience of enlightenment recently, where just from like, for anyone that doesn't know what chakras are, they're basically just like energy centers that go down your spine that basically, like, I'm not too educated on them to really explain them properly. Basically, they're energy centers that go down your body that control different aspects of. Do you know how would you explain chakras to people?
Yeah, they're just different places within your body, from the bottom of your spine, like near your top of your bum, to your head. And by saying different mantras and stuff, it can unblock energy that you have within them and connect you to something greater than yourself. I would, but again, I'm not no Buddha or nothing, so I'm not.
Yeah. So what
Take
happened
that
with
with a pinch
me,
of salt.
just from trauma and shit that's happened in my life, my heart chakra was closed.
Bless you,
Like,
yeah.
rock solid. And just from, the relationship I'm in and the spiritual work I've done, it was crazy. Like, one day it just opened up, right? And like opening your chakras, you can almost view it like, imagine a river, and there's all this sticks and muds and logs that are blocking that river from going down the
Clogging it.
pathway. And doing spiritual work, like meditating and looking inside and addressing your inner traumas and doing inner work, is like taking one stick and log at a time out of that river until it can flow properly. And for me, it reached this tipping point where one day the floodgates opened and my heart chakra just like exploded. It was like a dam burst. And what was crazy about it was it literally felt like getting a new sense. It's like I learned how to smell for the first time, or I got to see for the first time. Like, I experienced this feeling inside my chest that I could only describe as us unlocking a new sense. And for me, I definitely am very, very early on exploring spirituality, but it's opened this new fascination to me, because it's like, all right, well, I literally feel like I just learned how to smell. Like, imagine if someone was like, hey, if you like do a cartwheel every day, you're going to learn how to smell after a month. And you're like, I don't even know what that means, but you do it. And then all of a sudden you can smell, and you're like, whoa, like, I didn't even know this was possible.
They can't see, and they put those have those
color
operations
glasses,
and they're like shit, and they see color and they cry. And
well, what was really mind-boggling to me is it made me realize it's like, there's so much out there that I don't understand and I don't know that could be huge in helping me with my life. And what this podcast really is unlocking those, secrets and tools and tactics, and talking to people that have developed them, and then documenting them and organizing them into a structure that other people can benefit from them too. And, as this podcast evolves, that will become a lot more developed. But, the whole point of doing this podcast, outside of just getting people to know me outside of my music, is to really dive into that and learn about that and figure it out. And I feel like one-on-one communication, learning from people, is one of the most effective ways to accomplish this.
100%. And what was that experience like for you with that heart chakra? Was it like you let in more unconditional love? Did you experience giving it more? Was it a case of like, did you shed a few tears? Like, how was that for you?
Well, what was such a mind fuck about it is, so I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's going on here right now.
What, with BLM and?
Yeah, so basically Black Lives Matter movement going on, a lot of protests downtown. And they started to die down a little, but then Trump sent in federal agents to basically combat the crowds, and basically just is becoming a straight fascist on our country right now, and literally having our soldiers attack our citizens. And what's crazy is when my heart chakra opened, I could like feel the collective consciousness for the first time. Like, I can feel the like the vibrations in the air. It's the best way to describe it. And like, I can feel the pain that people are experiencing. So for me, I think one thing that happened through a lot of the trauma I went through, and I wasn't sure, I'm still to this day not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I just became very, very emotionless, right? Emotionless. So whether it was a good thing happening or a bad thing happening, I was at a very neutral position on everything. Right? So like, when happy shit would happen, like, it would be exciting, but it would be like, all right, cool, whatever, like, back to work. And then when negative shit would happen, I'm like, there's no point in stressing about it. So like, whatever. And I still today don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but as my heart chakras start to open, it's coming from a different perspective. Like, I have more empathy now. I I want to make people's lives happier. I feel worse about when I hurt someone. And I think I'm just more in tune with the actual feelings of other people, which I think is
That's
important.
beautiful, bro.
But like what's interesting is like, as that develops, it's like, all right, well, this is something I didn't even know existed. So what else is there out there that I don't know?
Yeah.
How do I tap into that?
Yeah, and I think you're doing that. And I think my take on your experience, based from my own as well, is that often with us men, we have very high masculine energies. When I talk about energies, I'm talking about masculine and feminine. Don't think of it as masculine as men and feminine as feminine. There's just two energies that we all
like
have,
positive
right?
and negative almost.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
But often with us men, and like the way society has been raised and stuff, we don't allow this feminine energy to come through us, which is basically, a lot of it is like love, and you know, we're often quite hard and cold. And then when you kind of let that energy in more, it can open you up. You feel more empathy, and it's kind of like you open up your heart to not only receiving it but also giving more love, which is like the Tony Robbins, bro. The amount of good that he does, you know, he's just operating at a place from just pure unconditional love all the time,
and that gives him literal like feelings of ecstasy.
Yeah, he doesn't need
like
anything.
when you truly impact someone's life and they're truly grateful for you, like there's literally no better feeling. And he's done that at scale, right? So coming back to like my bigger purpose, you know, where I'm going to take my music brand is to the point where I can go on a 30 city tour, and like that tour is sponsoring a charity, and that charity makes an impact in every city I go to. So like, for example, let's say that's, you know, like feed the homeless or something. I'm just naming something random. Well, if I can go into a city and not just play a show in front of 3,000 people, but know I'm going to feed, you know, that city tonight, that's going to make me feel so much better. And I'm going to have such a deeper purpose and mission, bigger than just fucking bitches, getting money, having all these people love me. Because I know that that's not going to fill the void. It really isn't. Because like we were saying earlier, this success, you think, oh, once I get that, I'll be happy. Once I'm touring the country, I'll be happy. But the problem is you get that, and then it becomes your new normal, and then you just feel exactly the same. So you need something bigger than that to really like connect with that. And so the infrastructure I'm building is to a place where, one, I get to do what I love, which is make and perform music.
Yeah.
Two, I'm impacting people's lives on a subconscious level, right? My music is, you know, when I can connect to someone through my music, but my message is giving them things that can help them make their life better, it's literally subconsciously almost brainwashing them to be a better person. So I'm making an impact at scale. And then not only that, if I'm monetizing this audience in a way that can make a bigger impact in people's lives, like that's is so exciting to me. That's a bigger purpose. That's way bigger than like where it started when I was 19, which is I want pussy, I want money, I want the fame, I want to, and you know, you get it, and it's not going to fill that void.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
mate.
That's what I'm really trying to build here,
bro. And I'm telling you, keep that within your heart, and you'll do bits, and it will take you to different places. And whether you believe in the cosmos, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, they'll be working in favor for you because of that, because you're effectively trying to help heal the world.
Yeah. And I feel like this is also one of the tools of this podcast, right? I think, you know, if you're trying to build an entity, you got to begin with the end in mind and build everything from accomplishing that goal. And so what, you know, really motivated me to do this podcast, besides having it really be a tool for me, is being able to make that impact in a very practical, implementable way that I can't do in my music. You know, I can make a message in my music that someone takes to heart, but that's different than having a conversation like this where we can actually lay out the tactics step by step.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
And for me, it's been this balance of not trying to become, I don't want to be the personal development rapper though. I want to be the rapper that makes music I fuck with, which includes shit that isn't personal development. But
like J. Cole, me as a
person, I'm very into personal development. I'm very into squeezing the most out of this reality as I possibly can. And I want to
Yeah.
spread the lessons that I'm learning to other people so it can impact their lives as well.
Beautiful.
So that's why I created this as a separate entity that is within my brand, but it's separate because, there's some people that might like this podcast that don't technically like my music.
Yeah.
And, while I'm, reality benders, what is that? It's having conversations with people bending reality towards their will to figure out, first of all, how they're doing it, but also celebrate the people that are doing that, to show you there are a million people doing this at every step that have different lessons that we can all take and use and implement for ourselves on our own journey.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And so I really want to make that impact. And, one thing I'll just expand on that are you familiar, like how familiar are you with like the subconscious?
Yeah. I would say pretty.
Have you heard of
switched on
Bob
with it.
Proctor?
Yeah.
So what's crazy, he talks about this concept, like, view your brain and your consciousness like an iceberg, right? There's like the percentage above the water that we see, and that's like the conscious brain, right? That's like 5%. And then there's a 95 underneath the subconscious that is controlling the conscious. That's things like what makes your heart beat. That's infinite intelligence. That's, a conversation you had 10 years ago that made you have a certain perspective on something that changes how you look at something when you're receiving it, right? Things like that, right? And that will determine the direction of your iceberg. Like the motion of the iceberg underneath the surface is going to determine where the conscious is headed. Right. So the subconscious underneath, we want to make sure we're pointing it in the right direction. And how do we influence the subconscious? Well, we influence the subconscious through emotion. Right. And what I realized and had this breakthrough when I was like 19 that made me really want to do music is I realized, like, what is one of the most successful tools at evicting emotion in people? Music.
Wow.
Right. So if music is literally like you press play and you have a feeling and an emotion when you hear that. Well, that is a tool to literally reprogram someone's subconscious brain. Whether you're doing that intentionally or unintentionally, you are literally programming that person's subconscious brain when they have an emotional reaction to your music. So that means as artists, we have a responsibility to control the narrative that we're putting in our music and making sure it's something that's going to point that subconscious in the right direction. So I go by Outlook the Rapper because I'm giving my perspective through music, but it's also a play on words. It's bigger than just rap. I'm looking outside of rap at like, how can I make a bigger impact? And where I really see my biggest impact coming outside of, charitable aspects with monetization is literally changing the subconscious trajectory of our generation's like dogmas through music.
Bro, I love that. That's fucking epic, mate. I've never really dived it that deep into the subject of music and emotions and put all the shit that I love together. And that was just, I felt the power in that, bro. It's like,
Isn't
damn,
like that gives me chills thinking about it today.
Yeah, man, that's lit, bro. And that's kind of, which is funny that, we're speaking now, because that's kind of what I want to do with my coaching and what I want to do with my speaking is the exact same. Create an emotion in others to create change and the trajectory of their life.
It's like a fractal. It's like a chain reaction. Like if you can impact someone's life, like look at that dude. What was his name? Like Johnny Magic or something. Who was that dude you're talking about earlier? That is mentoring you?
Ryan Magic.
Yeah, Ryan Magic. Like think about that dude's impact that he's having on you, and what that is going to allow you to, who that's going to allow you to impact.
Exactly,
right?
bro.
The amount of people you're going to impact directly from him helping you is more than he could do just by himself. Not even including the people you're going to impact that are going to also go change people's lives.
Exactly, bro. It's like Dave Meltzer, who's one of the OGs that I love. Have you heard of him? He basically, quick story short, he made 100 mil very egotistically and very like salesy. He lost it all, went broke, went on a spiritual journey, and now he's made 100 mil back. Very different way. And his quest now is to he wants to affect 1 billion people's lives by helping 1,000 people help 1,000 people. So he's like determined to help 1,000 people and like just change their rewiring and make them conscious to all the good juice that is out there, and then they'll go help 1,000 people. And I was like, that's lit, bro. Like and also get me on this sort of conversation, I get gas. But the book I'm reading at the moment, Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention, he says that one person who operates from a higher frequency of vibration, so not enlightenment, but let's just say a lower down there on the frequency chart, which is normally like unconditional love, or one person can affect 70,000 bad energies. And if you go to enlightenment, one person who's enlightened can affect 700 million bad energies. That's how powerful that stuff. Just the power of those good energies, and the way that the person will interact day to day. I'm sure if you're enlightened, you're having, Tony Robbins, he's not enlightened, I don't think, but he is operating at such a high force. And how many people has he affected? Hundreds of millions. So an enlightenment person does that because
you create that chain reaction.
Yeah, and just by being in their presence, that energy somehow has an effect on all that bad energy.
Well, that's crazy with Tony Robbins. Like when I saw him speak, like it was like I could only explain it as like a religious experience. It felt like I was like watching like a Buddha talk, or like some like high spiritual entity, and it just emanated throughout his consciousness, and he's just cultivated it to such a high level that like it's literally impacting you without you even consciously perceiving it.
Literally, Rob. And that's what I say to people. I say, and this is the same guy with Eckhart Tolle I was telling you about earlier. People go and see Tony Robbins speak, and they don't necessarily understand what he's talking about, but something in you does. And what's that something in you? That something is like your soul reaching out, thinking, I need this shit. I don't even understand it, but I need Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins just giving that good energy out that you comprehend and receive.
Yeah, it's that subconscious impact we're talking about that you can't see consciously, but intuitively you feel it.
Exactly.
And you might, especially if you're syncing it, you're going to feel it. So yeah, it's crazy how that can work. So what do you think is going to be the biggest thing that'll allow you to impact people's lives?
My inner world.
So doing your inner work on yourself.
1000%, bro.
And what does that look like? How do you, like when you say, like, because people always talk about like, oh, you need to look inward and work on yourself. Now, how do you logistically do that?
How do you
like practical step-by-step action steps you can do to do inner work?
Yeah, great question. Mine go-to meditation, right? Start meditating. If this conversation gives you anything, it's got to be meditation, because there'll be things that I'm telling you now as a coach and someone's been through it, there are things holding you back that you will say, no, there isn't, because you're not aware of it. By meditating, it can bring those to the surface, which does create pain, but it creates an opportunity to heal, which means then maybe in a year of meditating or 2 years, you might be like, do you know what? I'm actually going to start a business, and you won't have that limiting belief that you aren't going to be successful in it. But my tip for meditating and anything is, start with something realistic. Do one meditation 10 minutes a week for 4 weeks. For 8 weeks, I don't care, and then do 2 a week. Like, don't try and sit down and be a fucking Buddha, because all you're going to do is create guilt in yourself that you're not doing that action. So
also, to build off of that, there's no right way to meditate. People think that like to meditate, you have to like have complete inner silence or you're not doing it right. The act of meditating is doing it right? It's like when you're sitting down and you're meditating, I know some people that stop because they're like, I can't silence these thoughts, so I'm not doing it right. But it's like they talk about the monkey mind, right? You have this monkey in a cage, and it's like it just wants to fucking get out of the cage. And then meditating is like you're letting it periodically out of the cage to run around. When you first let it out, it's gonna go crazy. It may go crazy for the first 6 months of you doing that, because it's been locked up in this cage and pent up for years. Right. Yeah. But what happens after you let it out consistently every single day is it gets rid of all that kinetic energy that's been building up and pressurizing. And you reach this point where the monkey becomes very calm. And, it knows it's getting out every day at this time. It's going to be able to explore. And it just starts to naturally reach this inner state of calm, because it's not freaking out like, oh my God, I'm claustrophobic. I'm locked in this cage. I'm never going to be able to escape. Get me the fuck out of here. It's instead like, all right, like I know I'm going to get out today. I'm going to get a chance to, you know, release these emotions and I'll be great. And I'm going to go smell the flowers today. And tomorrow I'm going to climb this tree. And your brain just naturally over time just starts to calm down. And you're just mean average of like level of presence and level of, you know, calm and inner peace just starts to rise over time. So what I would recommend to build off of that is it's not about like being like doing this and then getting a direct result. Like I've meditated for a couple years, and until really this year, I didn't really see like an actual noticeable difference. Like it's happening, but it's such a subtle and subconscious shift that like you kind of feel the same.
Yeah, because it's happening at the smallest degree every day, which you wouldn't notice. And also, my goal for you to meditate would be to show up. That's it. Show up on your sofa once a week to meditate. Well, I don't give a fuck how many thoughts have.
To build off of what you're saying a second ago too, before I lose it, I don't want to forget this.
Go for it, bro.
Whether you're working on your finances, whether you're working on your spirituality, whether working on your health, people, they know inside they need to make a change, but they procrastinate, right? And then what happens with a lot of people is they reach this tipping point where they're like, oh, I got to fucking change. All right, let's fucking do it. So they, you know, meal prep for the week, and they have this extensive twice a day workout routine, and they're going really hard, but they're not creating sustainable actions. You're way better off making a 10% shift that you keep for 30 years than making a 90% shift that you keep for 2 weeks and then quit and then go back to your old habits.
100%.
So you make those incremental changes, but do something that is stretching what you're comfortable with, but it's something you're confident that you can sustain. Because once that becomes your new habit, which takes about 21 days to develop, once that's your new normal, then you can stretch it further. Stretch it another 5%. And then 2 weeks after that, another 5%. And then a month after that, another 5%. The next thing you know, you're 30% different, and it's something that feels natural and habitual and you can actually sustain. And that's everything. That's with your finances and your budgeting, right? If you go from
100%.
spending $4,000 a month to be like, I'm going to penny pinch and I'm only going to spend $300 a month, like you're just going to go back to your old habits because you're going to be like, this isn't possible. You're just going to get frustrated, and then you're just going to fall right back in your old habits. Where if you're like, all right, I'm just going to cut out, I'm eating out 10 times a week. Instead of just switching that all to eating at home, I'm only going to eat out 5 times a week.
And the beautiful thing about that as well, outside of the initial task, is you gain 2 things. You gain that inner confidence that you can actually achieve what you said you would, and you gain the skill of discipline, which if you want success in anything, discipline has to be one, because that's what it taught me. So not only are you learning the actual art of meditating and just showing up and getting deeper down into subconscious thinking and how your thoughts work, you're also building inner confidence because you're actually sticking to something, even if it is once a week. And you're building the skill of discipline, which you need if you want to build a business or if you want to gain that fulfilled life that I think we should all be aiming for. So,
oh, it's so true. And if anyone's like, they have a lot of shit hitting the fan right now, and they may be watching this podcast because they're looking for answers and they don't know where to start, I'd recommend starting with fitness and working out, because literally you're practicing the act of discomfort over a sustained time, and you're building that discipline, right? If you start with working out 3 times a week, which could be as simple as walking around the block at first, right? What happens is you experience this profound evolution as you stay consistent, that you see both in how you feel, in how you look, and then that creates this momentum that will spill into the other areas of your life.
100%.
So when I was in high school, I was part of a network marketing company, and it didn't work out. I learned a lot, but it didn't work out. And I was very lost going into college because I went to college right after that to like learn business. But when I was going to school, I felt like I'm spending a bunch of money I don't have, and I feel like I'm not learning shit. And I was just lost. And then like I just followed into all these bad habits. I was drinking 3-4 days a week because I'm 18. I'm let off the leash. I get a party. Let's go have fun. And going into that summer, like right before the summer started, I experienced like basically like a heartbreaking rejection. Like a girl that I really digged, that I thought digged me, and then she just totally shut me down. And it set me off on this catalyst of personal improvement and development. And it started off from a place of spite, where I was like, all right, she's still deeply ingrained in my friend group. And I know after this summer that I'm going to come back and I'm going to, like, it was literally just started from a place of spite where like, I'm going to show her like who I can become. And I'm going to make her regret doing that. Right. Which obviously just came from, I was in an unhealthy place. But what that started for me is I went to this boot camp where like, it was like twice a day, like super hard. And I just started working out really fucking hard. And I started getting in good shape and I started feeling better about myself. And like Tony Robbins talks about, right? Like what's the key to happiness? It's feeling like your life is progressing. So for the first time in like
100%.
9 or 10 months, I feel like I was finally gaining momentum again. And so where that expanded from there was I inevitably learned about, you know, e-commerce. And, you know, as I started feeling better about myself, I started reading again and doing personal development again. And then I learned about e-commerce and I started developing that and having fun with that again. And then it just exploded into this business and it just set me off on this journey. So I feel like if anyone's looking where to start, like I would definitely recommend starting with fitness, because like if you don't feel good in your body, that's going to affect your work. But like getting 100%. That process, it's the same for everything, for spirituality, for finances, for career, for fitness. It's all the process of doing painful things that you know are going to benefit you for a long period of time, where you do it and you don't see a visual difference in the amount of progress you made. But when you look back on a 6-month time frame, a 5-year time frame, a 10-year time frame, you're in a completely different place and you're a completely different person.
And that's where the addiction comes in, of being your best self, your consistent and persistent pursuit of your potential. That's what your happiness should be, I believe.
Well, I think kind of like with the spirituality, where that can, like, I feel like, you know, becoming the best version of yourself, like you got to be careful because it can become a drug and it can keep you from being able to be present. So one of the big things I'm working on right now is my ability to live in the present moment. Because my problem is I'm trying to build this huge entity, and that takes every ounce of my soul to create.
Busy.
So what happens is when I'm in situations where I'm just chilling at home with my girlfriend, it's been hard for me to not feel guilty like I should be working. So what I'm trying to work on right now is being able to go like, all right, no, like you need to be able to live in the present. You need to be able to just sit in silence and enjoy reality. Like you said, right? There's a 1 in a 400 trillion chance we're even alive. So yeah, you can always be doing more, but at some point, like you got to be able to just sit there and enjoy existing.
Human being.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to work on right now, is figuring out like how to do that. And it's happening more and more, right? I feel like the shift I've made is understanding like you need to recover too. You need some sort of balance. You can work, and even if it's your biggest purpose, like if you start neglecting your relationships and you start neglecting your health to like pursue this bigger purpose, it's like a drug. You can like, it can start to affect you negatively, even if it's completely for a good cause and you're happy doing it.
Yeah.
So finding that balance is really what I'm trying to figure out right now. Do you have any suggestions on how I can get better at living in the present?
Well, I think first of all, the fact that you're even asking those questions means that your soul and your body is in search of the answers, which I think is the best step to be in anyway. In terms of balance, like I wouldn't feel, because I don't have that much balance. I feel like I think for both of us in a similar situation, there's so much uncertainty that the balance isn't there, but then you need the uncertainty to gain the certainty, you know. And in 2 years' time, your life will hopefully be unfolding the way that you want it to be, and then you will have more balance, and you'll look back and be like, yeah, I realize now why I didn't have balance, because I had to put so much energy and time into this. So I think it varies for your journey.
Like where you're at on that process.
Yeah, and I think for a tip that I heard you say, which I get as well, is not feeling guilty of your mind being elsewhere. But then when you feel guilty and shame are one of the lowest ends of the spectrum of the consciousness level. So you're better off feeling guilty and then getting angry at yourself, because that's actually a higher form of consciousness, and being like, fucking hell, why the fuck am I feeling guilty, whatever it is, and then accepting that you're angry. And then already you've jumped from guilt to anger to acceptance, and acceptance, you'll be operating at a higher vibrational frequency anyway, which means then that will allow you to be more present in the moment. That's what came to mind anyway.
No, that's totally true. And I think one thing that happened recently that kind of is helping me is, Logic just retired. Logic the rapper.
Yeah, I didn't know that though.
Yeah, so he just released his like final project and retired. And what's interesting is he was one of my biggest influences and biggest role models. And like I was basically trying to build the life he created. And what's crazy is like he talked about like reaching the highest levels of success, and just like we said, right? Like not feeling that inner validation and that inner peace. And he just had a kid, and he doesn't want to keep chasing this external motivation that isn't filling that void at the cost of him being a worse father. And so he's literally made his last album. He's like leaving LA, moving to like Montana or some shit like that, and just living a more present, fulfilled life where he can be with his family. And it made me realize it's like, so if these people that have what I want are telling me that it's not going to give me this feeling that I hope it gives me, then what if I can experience the feeling I want now before I have that, and then just still chase that, but have it, the positive aspects of that be an additional byproduct of my enjoyment, not the end goal, because I know if I get there, it's not going to fill that void. Right. I got to fill that void now. And then through that acceptance and, present enjoyment of reality and life and living, like can create the momentum that will still give me the aspects of that I want.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the idea behind abundance, that if you operate from a sense that I have everything I ever need right now in this moment, is that then you attract everything that you need, that you attract everything because you have everything. It's like that whole, if you're so focused on chasing money, it's essentially that the money's running away from you. But if you're sat there and you're like, I have everything I need in my life, I've got love in my life, I love what I do, blah, blah, blah. And then everything's going to fall into places it's meant to.
That's crazy. I like that. Well, cool, man. I think that pretty much covers it. I think we fucking killed it.
Yeah, I think we went on incredible off-topic pathways that I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Anything you want to plug or anything you want to tell people? What are you up to?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me as well. I appreciate the jumping on this podcast. I love having these chats. Like I'm sure you can feel, I can feel that you love them as well. But yeah, I want to offer with my coaching business as well. Like I said, it is my mission to serve. So any of your audience that feels like they resonate with me and my energy, and I feel like that I can serve them on their journey, I'm offering 5 free half-an-hour coaching calls. So feel free to jump up. Follow me on Insta at Jack Mccloskey, which is JackMccloskey, and just shoot me a DM and just say, let's go, baby. And I will serve you in any way that I can.
Hell yeah. And if you guys have made it this far, please go subscribe on YouTube. I'm trying to build that platform up. I'm going to start releasing clips from these podcasts as well to break down the actual applicable information from them. So if you want the actual like takeaways on how you can implement what you've heard on this podcast, I'm going to start releasing those starting this week on that podcast. So go subscribe on YouTube. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. We did it.